So welcome to Understanding the edTPA Assignment, Part 4. It's important that you watch this entire presentation before trying to do Part 4 of this assignment, which is also, like Part 3, a little tricky. Unlike Part 3, there is no anchor paper. There's only this presentation. So here's the assignment. It's due this week, April 21st, and it's about differentiating learners for different types of learners in your classroom. Not only have we studied extensively motivational and learning theory, but we've also studied differentiation. So Part 4 asks you to apply that learning. Specifically, consider the variety of learners in your class who may require different strategies of support, such as students with IEPs or 504 plans, ELLs, struggling readers, underperforming students, or those with gaps in academic knowledge and are gifted students. How would you adapt the lesson for different learners in the class? Be explicit about the connections between the learning task and the following research theories. So you must choose from among these researched theories of learning and motivation, 3 of which we're covering in the lecture this week, by the way. So back in Part 2, I asked you to consider the number of students with IEPs, with specific language needs, with needing greater challenge or greater support, and gave me numbers for those. So now I'm going to ask you to think about those groups as I discuss and review the specific theories that you must use. You must choose from among these theories. First, there was Piaget's theory of cognitive development that said that students progress through developmental levels in their cognitive abilities. They divide them into rough stages. Your students are going to be either at the concrete operational or the formal operational stage. So remember that formal operational stage says that students can reason more abstractly, and concrete operational says that they're a little more concrete and can't reason as abstractly. So if you choose this theory, you're going to talk about how to make learning more concrete for those learners who are at the concrete operational level. Vygotsky's theory of cognitive development had one big idea, which is that learning can precede development, whereas Piaget said, no, developmental stages just occur, you can't rush them. Vygotsky said, well, maybe we can actually help them occur. He talked about a zone of proximal development, which is a task that a child cannot accomplish on his or her own, but can be accomplished with the assistance of peers or adults. He talked about scaffolding or providing assistance, and usually this is provided by the teacher or by competent peers. He talked about cooperative learning. Children work together to help one another learn. This is different than advanced students teaching students who are struggling, that they're learning together. If you use this theory, you're going to be talking about differentiation. And as we said in a previous lecture, differentiation can take many forms: content, process, and all these strategies that you could utilize. So you're going to talk about pre-assessing the students to determine their zone of proximal development, differentiating by content, process, or product. This is Bronfenbrenner's ecological theory, and if you use that theory, you're going to be talking about the interplay of forces between students' different systems. The mesosystem consisting of the school, peers, the daycare center, etc., the exosystem, and the macrosystem. If you talk about Erikson's theory of psychosocial development, then you're going to be dealing mostly with 2 stages at this level. The industry versus inferiority, where children learn the pleasures and benefits of productivity, or they feel inferior, like they can't accomplish things. Or you're going to be dealing with identity versus confusion, and where students are encouraged to develop a stronger sense of who they are and their purpose in life. If you talk about Kohlberg's theory of moral development, you're going to be trying to figure out where the students are in that level, what level they're at, and trying to help them have experiences to get to a higher order. Note that these are social emotional learning theories, this and Erikson, so they may not apply to your lesson. Skinner's theory of operant conditioning focused on the use of reinforcement and punishment to reinforce and diminish behavior. I would hope your lesson doesn't focus on punishment, but is there a way to reinforce learning in your classroom? He emphasized we can shape behavior to its desired outcomes. Many educators believe this is an effective tool that may be used for classroom management and improve learning. This week, we talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where the first 4 levels must be met before students may become self-actualized and reach the highest level. So if you talk about this, you're going to be talking about making sure those needs at the lower 4 levels are met. It's a little bit difficult to do because students aren't always within our control. We can't always make sure that they have enough sleep or that they have security, safety, and shelter. We can help them develop friendships and self-esteem and confidence and achievement. We also talked about the expectancy value theory, so motivational theory, in which students are motivated because they expect to succeed and they value the task. So if you choose this one, you're going to talk about ways to make learning more meaningful to students, giving students choice, and helping them to understand that they can succeed by providing a specific kind of feedback and helping them succeed. Attribution theory explains how people view the causes of their behaviors and outcomes. So again, this was this week. It's another motivation theory. It's where students learn to the blame or credit for success or failure, what they put that on, whether they blame themselves or whether they credit themselves or whether they blame or credit something external to themselves, whether they can develop internal locus of control or external locus of control. And so this is about student feedback and the way we give them feedback. This is about motivating them through helping them to see that they are responsible for their own actions. Now be careful if you use this one because this is one that has to be applied over time. It doesn't adapt well to a single lesson, but you can bring it into your discussion. So what to do in this assignment? Well, first, you don't have to do all of the groups that you mentioned, but I do want you to have 2 groups. One must be a group that needs more support in some way. So struggling students, students on IEPs, ELLs. One must be an advanced group. So even if you said you don't have advanced students, you must pretend that you do and have an advanced group. These are students who have already mastered your objectives. For each group, that is, for each of the 2 groups, select one of the learning or motivational theories we just discussed. Decide on one or more strategies that relate to that theory, some of the ones I just discussed, or you can go back into your textbook or you can go back into the lectures and think about other strategies. And apply it to your lesson to describe how to differentiate it for one of the groups. So for example, for your advanced group, you could draw in Vygotsky, you could talk about the zone of proximal development and pre-testing, giving them more challenging work. But be specific no matter what you do and how you will implement the strategy. So are you going to vary the content and give them more advanced reading levels? Are you going to support struggling readers, and how so? So in sum, you should have 2 groups and one or more learning or motivational theories, specific strategies, and plans for implementing. So that's due this week. And so what's the whole thing that's due this week? So parts 1 to 4, hopefully you've revised parts 1 to 3 based on my feedback. So complete 4 and upload all of the parts to the link in this week's folder. I'm going to give you feedback, and then the final is due on May 5th. And because this occurs so late in the semester, it may not be revised and resubmitted. So this submission that you're doing this week will count as your draft. So I hope that explains the assignment, and please, as always, feel free to email me or set up a call and I'll walk you through it if you don't understand something. Thanks, everybody.